1971, Richard Nixon stunned the world by cutting the dollar's tie to gold, and this happened overnight. He essentially rug pulled the global economy. Now, Russia claims the US is planning to do it again, but this time with crypto using stablecoins. At the Eastern Economic Forum, Putin's advisor Anton warned that Americans plan to move its $37 trillion debt into a crypto cloud and reset the system.
Америка прямо сейчас пытается поменять правила на рынке золота и криптовалют. Вспомните, какой у них долг. 35 триллионов долларов. Со временем, когда часть госдолга США будет размещена в стейблкоинах, США обесценит этот долг.
And I know all of this sounds insane. If you watch this video, you're gonna see how that's actually very possible. And in fact, you'll realize it's the oldest financial trick in history. And what's happening now is a repackaging for the digital age. Now, how is this the oldest trick in the book? Well, here's how the games have always worked. Imagine the whole world is worth $100. I borrow all of it, but instead of paying it back, I print another 100 out of thin air. Now there's 200 chasing the same stuff. What happens is prices double, debts look paid, but really you've just cheated. Now that is the simplest way to explain inflation. It devalues debt without ever having to default on it. And the US has used this before. After World War II in the inflationary era in 1970, and again in 2020 after the pandemic. It's the silent tax that everyone has to pay. Now let's talk about stablecoins and how they're basically the new weapon. This is what makes today different. Stablecoins are dollar-pegged tokens backed by US Treasury, used worldwide on blockchain rails. Here's why that matters. When Americans inflate the dollar, citizens feel it instantly. Higher bills, higher rent, higher interest rates. But with stablecoins, the inflationary tax gets exported globally. Every time someone in Asia, Africa, Europe uses USDC or USDT, they're unknowingly helping fund America's debt. When the dollar weakens, their token weakens too. Now here's the real world proof. And this is not just a theory. Stablecoins like Tether already process more daily transactions than Visa. The supply of the dollar-backed tokens has exploded to 160 billion. Meanwhile, central banks bought over 1,000 tons of gold in 2023, which is the largest haul in modern history. And the question is, why won't other nations play along? Because stablecoins require trust. Trust in the US issuers like Circle and or Tether. And audits can be gamed, reports can be delayed, and history shows the US changes the rules when it suits them best. In 1971, Nixon promised every single dollar could be redeemed for gold. But what about when they rug pull the world overnight? What stops Washington from doing the same exact thing with the digital dollars? That's why Russia, China, and others are buying gold instead. Gold doesn't need an auditor, gold can't be printed or frozen with a keystroke. The world is splitting into two camps, America exporting inflation through digital dollars and the BRICS bloc hoarding gold to resist it. It's not just economics, it's geopolitics. Now here's the biggest twist. This is the Bitcoin backdoor, which Michael Saylor said it best. He once told Trump, sell America's gold and buy 5 million Bitcoin. It never happened publicly, but privately, companies like MicroStrategy and Bitcoin proxies holding hundreds and thousands of coins. This may be the US strategy. Let private firms accumulate the Bitcoin quietly. If it becomes strategic, the government can step in, just like it did with Intel and other companies in the past. That way, America builds its Bitcoin reserve by stealth without spooking the world because they have large stakes in these companies. This would be one of the stealthiest ways to accumulate. And if you've been following crypto, especially with all the new all-time highs, you probably have, you've seen these companies accumulate large amounts of Bitcoin at unprecedented speed, and even Ethereum too. And it would be very naive to believe that the US government, which governs these US companies, does not have some stake in what's happening. Now, I know you probably might think this sounds like a conspiracy, but it's not. Debt devaluation through inflation is exactly how America has survived every single major debt crisis before. Stablecoins just make it easier to scale the trick worldwide and harder for ordinary people to see what's happening. Now let's zoom out and see the bigger picture here. The truth is, the natural state of the economy is deflationary. Technology makes goods cheaper, productivity makes life more efficient, but governments hate deflation. It makes the debt harder to pay, so they inflate it over and over and over again. Stablecoins are simply the 21st century's version, exporting America's debt burden globally under the disguise of innovation. Bitcoin is the alternative. it's a lifeboat, and gold is the ancient fallback. But either way, the US is preparing for the next reset, and it's happening in front of our eyes. Whether we believe this to be conspiracy or not, history doesn't repeat, but it always does rhyme. So here's the question. Is this a brilliant strategy to save America, or the biggest rug pull to ever happen in financial history? One thing's for sure, the reset is coming. Now you need to ask yourself, how could you position yourself to hedge this inside of your portfolio so that way you don't actually have to bear all the burdens and ramifications of these mispractices by the government? Check out the rest of the videos on this channel because I'll show you exactly what I'm doing inside my portfolio. Like always, thanks for watching.